Well, it's about time to look back on some old media, and since I got a request from Carlos Hernandez on Patreon, that media will be MUCHA LUCHA, that old kids WB turned Cartoon Network series created by Lily Chen and Eddie Mort about luchadors in training that pioneered the idea of flash animation. With this video, I'm going to talk about everything that made this show what it was. I'm talking creator interviews, background lore, character info, and finding what else was done since the series ended. This is going to be a complete, epic, extravagant look at everything that is MUCHA LUCHA. Oh man, now I gotta cancel everything including the dancing elephants. But I can't not review it, there's gotta be something I could do. Wait a minute, the TV movie. It basically captures everything that the show was. The dynamic characters, the weird wacky humor, the dated animation. It has all the essential elements all tightly rolled into 1 hour long movie. That's the perfect means to talk about this series. So everybody get your luchador masks on, because this is Deep Thoughts. We open on a vast galaxy as the narrator gets a little too explicit about it.
The gaseous storm of Jupiter burns a deeper red, and galactic winds of dust and vapor whip Uranus.
That's disgusting!
The narrator then tells us of a dark evil that's about to be unleashed. A great evil that is a little white girl.
Jenny Perkins of 13932 Jefferson Way. No, wait, I'm sorry about that. I got the address wrong.
Well, she does have the potential to grow up to be like Miley Cyrus, so I can see the mix-up. The narrator then shows us the real evil known as El Malefico, who has a pretty cool voice done by Tim Curry.
Show me the luchadores who can aid me in opening the passage between the worlds. Yes, I am beginning to see it.
But Doctor, you've never driven a miniaturized submarine into the brain of a rocket scientist before.
Don't worry, nurse. Driving a miniaturized submarine into the brain of a rocket scientist is just the same as making a good salsa, only with less tomatoes and slightly less cilantro.
Boy, those telenovelas sure haven't been the same since Vince McMahon got to them. But it just turns out that he was on the wrong channel and finally reveals the true heroes that can stop him. Then it rolls to the series opening credits.
Mucha lucha, mucha lucha. It's the way of life. Mucha lucha, mucha lucha.
You can't fake that theme song, just plain slaps. It's energetic, it's catchy, it gets you in the mood to watch the show. It just does everything right. We didn't see our main heroes Ricochet, Buena Girl, and the Flea deciding to throw a party while Ricochet's parents are away on a wrestling trip in Vegas with everyone else's parents. Pretty irresponsible for them to just leave all their kids without any parental guidance, but then again, these are wrestlers, so one too many chairs to the head might have affected their judgment skills. The only one parent left is Ricochet's sleeping grandpa, who apparently has the ability to sleep through all that partying. You know, if he and every other boomer could do that till the 2020 election is over, we might be able to get Trump out of office. The party goes fine as you start noticing how dated the series looked. It was commendable for its time and paved the way for future Flash animated shows, but at the same time, you can see the chinks in the armor in the series. Thankfully, the show actually made up for it with some pretty decent humor and some creative aspects to it, like the whole characters turning into objects as wrestling moves.
Wrestle or dare? I choose wrestle! Place water out! Humiliated!
Ricochet gets a call from his mom and does a pretty poor job of hiding the fact that he's having a party. Thankfully, his parents don't give a crap and let him continue on.
That's not the proper goodbye, Nico.
Oh, Mama, do I have to?
I'm waiting.
Okay. Mama's little puppy Mama wants to kiss and nothing.
Mama didn't hear you.
I said, Mama's little puppy Mama wants to kiss and nothing.
Mama still didn't hear you.
Oh, Mama's little pumpkin llama wants huggles and kisses and nuzzlings. I have to go now, Mama.
You know, that was kinda evil on the mother's part, but well played evil. I give her props for that. We transition back to El Malefico watching all the parents having a party as he plots his grand plan of using all the adult luchadors to gain full power and control of the world. He exposits to himself
Okay.
about how he needs someone to release him from his prison. He looks at Ricochet's party and notices them playing Wrestle or Dare. He then tricks the Flea into getting Ricochet to read a sentence from the Code of Mass Wrestling backwards. This, oddly enough, causes everyone to freeze in place as Malefico is released.
I was frozen today!
Hola! Welcome to my party. May I take your coat? Make yourself at home. Have some punch. Perhaps you'd like a nibble?
I am El Malefico, Lord of Netherland, bringer of destruction, deliverer of desolation, and West Coast distributor of pain!
Considering the West Coast has Hollywood, that does make a bit of sense. Malefico sends our main trio flying into a carnival as he wreaks havoc on the rest of the partygoers by turning them into different objects. Which seems redundant since they turn into different objects on a regular basis, and oddly enough, they just choose not to change back. I get they're luchadors in training, but they still have the use of their brains, but whatever. The trio finally arrives back at the house to see everyone transformed and the neighborhood destroyed and Malefico gone. The Flea picks up two of his friends that got turned into coins only for Buena Girl to knock it out of his hands. This finally wakes up Ricochet's grandpa. Typical boomer attitude, all about the money.
You read the Code of Mass Wrestling backwards?
Yes!
And a really tall hombre wearing an inky black cloak appeared?
Yes! Yes!
With a creepy little sidekick?
Yes!
Or was he juggling bowling balls and singing a song about a little camper named Willie?
No.
Then it's worse than I thought.
You know, that's something I do appreciate about this and the show overall, that it indulges in silliness. It's not ashamed of just being itself, and it manages to give off that the crew was having as much fun as they could with it. It's just kind of a nice thing to think about with this series. We transition back to Las Vegas, where Malefico puts himself in the middle of a poorly constructed street. Sure, why not? And destroy all in his path. We then cut back to the trio, which kind of makes Malefico's part a little rushed. I don't see why they didn't show off more of him enacting his plan there, since they're gonna show it later on anyway. It's just kind of an odd story placement thing. But anyway, Ricochet's grandpa tells the group that Ricochet is prophesied by Penn and Teller for reasons to be the one to defeat El Malefico, as well as Buena Girl, who just happened to have a tape where her parents find out the same prophecy. Okay, sure. All except for the Flea, but they let him help anyway. The group tries calling Ricochet's parents, but to no avail due to them being at a wrestling match. Malefico crashes the party by taking over the announcer.
Brutal.
Malefico faces off against all the luchadors and ends up putting up a really good fight. You know, I'm just thinking that could be a metaphor for this series' animation budget.
Sparkling teeth of brightness!
Halitosis!
All the luchadors try and fail to take down Malefico as he captures all of their souls to gain power and builds his lair in the middle of Vegas.
Oh, that's brutal.
We cut back to Ricochet, who gets visited by his parents in a dream as they tell him about a masked wrestler named El Silver Mask Jr. in Mexico City, who holds certain articles of clothing called the Artifacts of Buenoness that can help defeat Malefico. Ricochet's dream is interrupted by his living toy wanting a sandwich. At this point, do you really want to question it? You have people who can turn into inanimate objects for the sake of it, so is it really out of the ordinary?
Not really.
Ricochet joins up with his friends and Grandpa and begin to head out on their mission.
The Flea forgot something! Something essential for the success of the mission! The Flea does have to go to the bathroom. The Flea does not have to go to the bathroom anymore.
You nasty.
Ricochet's grandpa takes him to a bus stop and says that he can't go on any further. Not because he's old, but because his electric suit doesn't have any more extension cords. At least it gives us some funny sight gags. The gang manages to reach Mexico while we get a somewhat unnecessary scene with Malefico.
The most powerful voice in all the land.
Sing! Sing for the Dark Lord!
thank you so much. Thank you. Twinkle, twinkle.
What is this?
Huh?
Mine is the most powerful voice in all the land. I am the greatest singer of all time. It is me that is greater than everyone else. My voice is best. My singing is best. You are nothing. You have no voice. I am not for yourself. It is me. Ah!
Well, that was just cruel, but it's kind of deserved since she did disrespect Deadpool. We join back up with the gang as they set foot in Mexico City. They begin their search for Silver Mask Jr. as they get help from Penn and Teller. Random, but it keeps the time short, so why complain? The gang is told Silver Mask is having a match in a Megadome later tonight as they get tickets to see. They find Silver Mask having his match as they then get mistaken as his opponents and have to fight him. I get they're luchadors in training, but they're still kids. This guy's literally one call away from a child abuse scandal. You know this guy's about to get caught up in a Twitter cancellation campaign. The gang finally convinces El Silver Mask that they're here to get his help to stop Malefico. He agrees to help, but he tells them that he doesn't have the ancient articles of clothing to defeat Malefico. He says that he hid them in different locations and the gang must use a map and journey to find them. Kinda makes his presence pretty useless, and it's further proven by the fact that he gets his ass handed to him when he goes to fight off Malefico.
You cannot eat me. I am El Silver Mask Jr., son of El Silver Mask!
Seriously, you could have just had the grandpa give them the map and have them journey to get the artifacts instead. It would have saved on a lot of time, and actually that is something about the series that it would do from time to time. Just have moments that could have been cut since it really just stretches out the runtime. That does make the show a bit of a grind to sit through. Granted, the episodes were pretty short, so there wasn't much time to waste, but you can notice it more in this hour-long movie. But anyway, the group decides to split up searching for the different artifacts while Malefico watches them. The group faces different challenges to get each article of clothing. Buena Girl floats down a river and comes across a toilet paper temple, as you do, that's also guarded by a cameo from the series. Buena Girl ends up having to face off against a mummy for the Boots of Bravery, who also is the mom of the mummy, so the mummy's mummy.
I get it!
Who also guards the artifacts. Buena Girl wins the fight, but the mummy just looks like she couldn't care less about seeing her own mother get her shit wrapped up. The fleet goes to Puerto Rico to find the Tights of Tightness from Penn and Teller again, and is told he needs a pawn ticket to get the tights. He ends up having to go to a librarian named Don Cerebro who has the ticket that the flea seeks.
Don Cerebro? The flea has never heard of him.
Yeah, well, he probably knows all about you, even down to the color of your underwear.
Oh, that is an easy one. The flea is not wearing any underwear.
Well, it's only a matter of time before he gets Me Too'd. The flea makes it to the library and meets up with Don Cerebro, where he must complete a challenge of great wits.
Which hand is the ticket in?
You tried to trick the flea, but the flea is too smart for you. The ticket is in the flea's hand.
You are no match for Don Cerebro. Huh? Huh? But how did you do that?
Oh, I'm sorry. What I meant to say was a great nitwit. The flea gets the ticket and goes to get the tights. Ricochet goes to the jungle to get the Cape of Courage and has to face off against some natives. The natives chase Ricochet to a cliff and push him off. This ends up leading him directly to the Cape. The gang meets back up in Mexico City as Malefico starts spreading his darkness all over the world. The gang fears for the worst as they need a ride to Las Vegas. Thankfully, a MacGuffin in the form of a Puerto Rican Elvis shows up to help them.
Okay.
The gang makes it to Las Vegas and make their way to Malefico's fortress with only an hour to stop him before he becomes too strong. They find a conveniently placed lever that makes Penn and Teller pop up again. Seriously, what is with them having Penn and Teller more or less just Penn voicing here? It's not like he was a prominent figure on the show, so his cameo just feels odd. But anyway, they show the gang a way to get into Malefico's lair, but not without wasting our time again.
That's not right.
My My legs itch.
My body itches. The flea feels pretty.
Stop wasting time!
The gang make it into the lair and face off against many different obstacles, which include white tigers and...
Look, Mom!
Oh my god, can we seriously stop with the Penn and Teller cameos? What is even the point of it? They can literally be replaced by anyone and nothing is missed. Jesus, tap dancing Christ! But moving on, following up from that annoyingness, the trio beat Penn and Teller and finally make it to Malefico. They duke it out in a pretty creative and visually interesting fight using their signature moves. The gang starts to gain the upper hand, but Malefico uses the power of all the trapped luchadores to grow in size. The gang remembers the true power of the clothes and call upon it.
Honor!
Family, tradition, and donuts!
Seems like a worthy cause to fight for, unless it's Krispy Kreme. Still not over all that advertising and Power Rangers. The gang grows up in size to face off against Malefico. They gain the upper hand and are able to finally defeat him. They get their hands on the book that holds the trapped luchadores and free them all. Ricochet gets one last apologetic cameo from Penn and Teller and decides to unmask Malefico and see who he really is.
Jenny Perkins of 13932 Jefferson Way!
See, I had it right all along. Jenny Perkins is evil.
Worst ending ever.
Okay, I think that's a good place to end this on. That was Mucha Lucha, The Return of El Malefico. A pretty okay movie at best, but at worst, it can kind of work your nerves a little. It wastes some time with the cameos and some random gags that don't really go anywhere. It's not the worst thing you'll ever watch, but just in general, you might get a little annoyed. It's more or less just a time waster. It's not the worst thing ever, but just something that's like, you don't need to watch it. But the real question is, does it represent the series well? Honestly, I think it does. It shows off the same animation style and what could be done with it at the time. Now, newer shows came along to prove that it could be done better, but it did set a bit of a standard. The humor can be pretty legit with some of the randomness that happens in it. It indulges itself in its own world and genuinely has fun with itself. It knows not to take itself seriously and shows how wacky it can be. It was not a phenomenal show, but it was enjoyable for what it was. The movie had a few more problems within the series, mainly with it having more pointless moments that are noticeable with a longer runtime. But thankfully the series is only small 11-minute segments that gets in and gets right out. Do I recommend it? Only if you enjoy or can look past, at best, passable animation. And that's the review. Thank you for watching, and always remember, it's just a deep thought.